This conference will now be recorded.
Six, the Kansas regular meeting of the KTMPO transportation and policy movement the storm. Noting that there is more here. The first item on the agenda is opportunity to comment. Do we have anybody in person that would like to address the board this evening? Seeing and hearing none, is there anyone online that would like to address the board this morning?
There's 7 individuals online, no comment.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to item number 3 on the agenda is staff updates. Good morning, everybody. As you'll see on the screen, we have our upcoming KTMPO associated meetings. In your packet, you'll also see under other updates, KTMPO audit. Since November, KTMPO has been going through an external audit with TechStop. We've got the draft report back from that, and I've sent responses. I've shared that information with the chair and vice chair, as well as the fiscal folks and administration that help us with our finances. And so hopefully before the next meeting, we will have our actual final audit back that I can share with everybody. The transport folks that I think we had a presentation from them a few months back, the high-speed rail people that came in from north central Texas area. James and I had a conversation with them late last month, and they were looking for some additional information. We had originally floated the idea of a test track because they were looking for 10 to 20 miles. The test track to tie in somewhere to 35. Our original thought was maybe right down I-14 toward Palados, because there's no real rail kind of plan for that area. And this seemed like a logical place to test a track that would tie into 35 where the rest of the track is supposed to kind of lay parallel. But we're waiting to get a little bit more information to them so they can see if it's something they want to investigate further. If it is, we will be reaching out to the county and the other people that jurisdictions that are going to be directly impacted to set up some kind of meetings to see if this is something we'd like in our region or if it's not. We had some concerns with the amount of projects that we received. So really a good concern because people are really engaged in applying for funding that we offer. But the scoring, with as many projects as we got in the scoring process we have in place, there were some concerns that scores wouldn't be able to be back in time by the deadline, which was originally January 19th, I believe. So we pushed the deadline to February 2nd. If you did happen to get your scores in on time because you weren't aware, I apologize. Thank you. But we'll try to do better next time. We do have 3 administrative amendments to the TIP and the MTP. The first one is the Hill Country Transit District's micro transit technology funding. That was originally scheduled for a FY2026 let date. The amendment would be moved that to fiscal year 2024. The reasoning for that is they are looking to utilize these funds to get their micro transit program off the ground, and I don't think that was all taken into consideration when we did the original allocation of dollars. The other 2 amendments, there's one on Rancier to move the let date from 24 to 26. That's due to project readiness. And then the Williams Road sidewalks is to move the let date from 2024 to 2025. And that was requested by TxDOT and the Village of Salado. The other thing I have that's not in the packet, and I think I spoke to it briefly last time, was greenhouse gas performance measures. There have been a lot of talks on the national level about how these are going to get implemented. The state was required to have their greenhouse gas performance measure targets submitted and approved by February. So they got those into my understanding, which gives us 6 months as an MPO to adopt our greenhouse gas targets. Without much information available, I anticipate that staff will recommend following the state targets as we have our other performance measures, except for safety, which we'll talk about today. Just to kind of see how the formulas work for our region and if there are areas where we can improve. I think 6 months doesn't really give us a lot of time, especially with not having a whole lot of guidance on how to develop those performance measures right now. I don't think it gives us enough time or information to do that at a regional level. So my recommendation coming forward will probably be to adopt the states, at least this first round, like we've done the other performance measures. In addition to the reasoning for that is there are, I believe, 6 to 8 states who have filed lawsuits against this new rule and performance measures. So there's going to be litigation on these things. In addition to, as everyone's well aware, the upcoming election, we're unsure how any potential administration changes may impact that. So it's a lot of work for the MPO to go through establishing a set of targets that may just go out the window with any lawsuits or administration changes in over the course of the next year or two. That's just my thought. I'm open to any conversation, but this will be something that we bring back to the board over the next couple of months to discuss.
The state targets generalized or are they regional?
They're generalized. To my understanding, they're generalized. The last thing I have is the air quality update, and we are at 43 to 42 parts per million. Any questions?
Thank you for the updates. Appreciate that. Moving on to item number 4 on the agenda, which is an action item regarding the approval of the minutes from the December 13th, 2023 special meeting. Those were included in your packet under pages 12 through 15. Yes.
Yeah, one question. That left the A off the name. All right, AKO. It's not a big deal. Some levity for Wednesday morning. Okay. Otherwise, I move to approve it with the necessary correction.
We've got a motion to approve the minutes and a second. Noting, a little further in. You're by spelling there. We've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. This had motion carries. Item number 5 on the agenda is a discussion and action item regarding a change to the February TAC meeting date. That's on page 18 of your packet. Right.
All right. Staff had an upcoming statewide training, February 7th, which was the originally, February 7th, which was the original planned and adopted calendar date for the TAC to meet in February. At this time, we're asking the policy board to allow us to move that date or postpone that for 1 week to February 14th. James did bring this before the TAC and they didn't have any concern with that. So at this time, I would just, ask the board for approval to move that date back 1 week.
Thank you, Ryan. There's no discussion. I would entertain a motion to approve moving that meeting from February 7th to February 15th. So moved. Got a motion and a second from Councilmember Long. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Ayes have it, motion carries. Item number 6 on the agenda is discussion and action item regarding resolution 2024-01, adopting the FY24 Safety PM1 performance target measures for the KTMPO. Those items were on pages 20 through 24 of your packet. James.
Thank you, Judge. I know we've had quite a few conversations the last several meetings, but just a brief reminder, TxDOT and all MPOs are required to set safety performance targets for 5 different measures: the number of fatalities per million vehicle miles traveled, number of serious injuries per million vehicle miles traveled, and then the number of non-motorized fatalities and non-motorized injuries. These targets are required to be adopted annually by the MPO before February 27. This year it's historically, we've adopted the state's targets, but in the past year, staff have been looking at and working with several different groups, including the TAC Policy Board and the Safety Working Group, to set some local or some regional targets. And based on the previous discussions and all the conversations that we've had, the recommendation that staff is presenting today, and it's a resolution that's included in your packet, is to set the fatalities and rate of fatalities target to be 0 deaths by 2050. And for serious injuries, it will be a 25% reduction in the current trend line of serious injuries over the next 5 years. Have some graphs here. This is just a summary of there are some other options we're including in case the board is interested in doing something different. Highlighted one is what staff is recommending. This does follow the template that the state uses to set their own targets, where they have a target of 0 deaths by 2050. And for the serious injuries, they don't have a target of 0. They use a reduction in the past 5 years of data. So for fatalities, you can see here the 2018 to 2022 is the data we have. Those are the number of fatalities we've had each year. And if you put a trend line on that, that solid blue line is where we're headed. Based off of the 2022 data, if we were to hit 0 deaths by 2050, have a reduction each year to get down to that linear reduction, the target for 2024 would be 57 to get down to 0. And then for serious injuries, kind of similar, but because it's a percent reduction, that level is a little bit higher. That's all the slides I have. Staff recommending the 25% reduction. What I shared at the TAC is that this is a starting point, and I think as we do this process annually with local targets, and we can look back and see, all right, here's the target we set, here's the actual numbers for year 2024, which we'll know in 2025. We can do a better job at adjusting kind of where we're heading. I know there's been conversations about how realistic are these targets. We're required to set them, and maybe they're not realistic, but I think the TAC and the working group kind of agree that we've got to start somewhere, and the TAC did recommend approval of staff recommendation and the resolution that's included in your packet. Happy to answer any questions from anybody.
Yeah, and like James said, this is the first year we've done this. Like I mentioned with the greenhouse gases, we typically would adopt the state. We've adopted the state targets in our region since the beginning of this program. We finally felt we had enough data and information available to us to come up with some good regional targets. That way we're not just listing large state numbers in our performance measure. These are specific to our MPO region, as opposed to the statewide targets that we get. So and next year, as we start working through this, we may see where there may need to be some revisions or corrections or other things taken into account. But this is our first go at it. I did reach out to some other MPOs. They haven't even entertained developing their own, so we're kind of trailblazing, to my knowledge. So I appreciate the work staff and everybody that's participated, all the work that's been put into this. That's all I really have.
Thank you, James. Thank you, Ryan. Questions or comments for James or Ryan? Any discussion?
Nothing about it. You and I didn't bother. I think we've been at both the TAC and the policy meetings, and this has been debated and analyzed. And I think we're all comfortable with just these numbers. But like Ryan said, we're getting better at finding the data, looking at the data, understanding what that means in terms of trends in the area, what projects we're bringing in, and are those projects doing something? This is just going to strengthen that process. This is going to force us to look at that data, force us to analyze those projects. Are we reaching the targets that ultimately support that goal? So yeah, let's get started.
And I did have one more thing, and I just want to clarify with James and for the board. When we drafted this resolution, this does not have any conflicts with the Safe Streets and Roads for All resolution that we'll have to adopt at a future date. We just want to make sure that both of those resolutions don't conflict each other. And I believe this one does that. I just wanted to verify. Yeah.
Any other thoughts, questions, concerns? Not, I would entertain a motion.
Resolutions.
We have a motion to approve resolution 2024-01.
Second.
And a second from Councilmember Chavez. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. That's how that motion carries. Item number 7 on the agenda is a discussion item regarding the FY 2023 annual performance and expenditure report. That is on page 26 of your packet.
All right, I'll give this a go. Every year we're required to submit a financial report to Federal Highways and TxDOT. The APER is that report. You should have each received a copy of that in your email. If you didn't, let me know. We'll get you one. We didn't print any copies out, and it's not in the packet because it's a decently large document. If you're looking for some good reading on how well we've spent the funds allocated, and would like to see some of the stuff staff are doing, I encourage you to read that report. This is really just an informational item. This report was approved by TxDOT on the 8th of January. I do anticipate possibly in the next go around of this that we may have to bring it to policy board for approval and go through a public participation process. I think those are some of the things in the back end that are starting to work. But for this year's, it's really just an informational item. If you have any questions about the APER, please feel free to reach out to us over here, and we're happy to walk you through that.
Quite a few of those on there, so not a lot of money spent through 2023, but those are all allocated and continue to be spent as projects are completed. It's not that we're not spending money.
Well, and the APER, most of that's our UPWP, our planning dollars. So, that has to do with staffing and our special studies, our MTP development, and we typically have ebbs and flows in the process. Like right now, we're doing the MTP. So we'll have a lot of money for staff time going into the MTP. So that'll reflect in the next APER. There'll be a much larger portion of allocated funds to the MTP than were used last year because we were just doing little updates. So there are ebbs and flows. That being said, our funding may reduce a little bit with the new MPO, but what we currently have is what we've been allocated. So in our UPWP, those dollars are what we have. They're not they're for what, 24 and 25. The next cycle was 24, 25. This was for 23. But I anticipate you'll see a lot of difference. We have new staff members coming on board that'll some of the admin and other dollars, as well as moving forward with some of the studies that we didn't get to.
I just want to make sure we weren't supposed to spend all that money in 2023. We're still spending it.
No, we're allowed to carry over. When carryover gets to a certain point, it becomes a concern. But yeah, we're well within what we're allowed to carry over and keep planning.
Any other questions for Ryan and staff? Hearing none, thank you, Ryan. We'll move on to item number 8 on the agenda, which again is a discussion item regarding an update on the KTMPO MTP steering committee. That's covered under page 28 on your packet. And James.
Thanks, Judge. The only update I have is right after this meeting, we're having the first steering committee meeting. So I sent an email out to everybody, but if you are a possible member and would like to listen in, you're welcome to stick around and listen to that.
Thank you, James. Any questions for James on that? Hearing none, we'll move on to item number 8 on the agenda, which again is a discussion item regarding an update on the safer streets and roads for all SS4A grant. James.
Thanks, Judge. Not a ton to update on the SS4A grant program. We've done in December, we did a lot of engagement meetings, met with most of the cities in Bell County, several different counties in the Sigahawk region, had 4 different public meetings. There's a safety task force that some of y'all are on that's met twice and will meet monthly going forward. And we have some few more planned meetings over the next month. I think one of the biggest things is staff and our Killeen-Temple consultant, kind of the next step is to set the outline and what the major content pieces of the safety action plan are going to be. So I think this summer we'll have a draft ready for review probably. And then we're also starting the process of identifying some ideal candidate projects for future SS4A implementation funds and also the HSIP program as part of what we've contracted with them to do is to help us identify projects, and they're going to be collecting data and filling out some reports and forms that can help cities and counties apply for future funding. So we're in the process of that. We will be sharing all that information back in policy board over the coming months as we get through that process. If you have any questions or concerns about that, let me know. Happy to share information.
And we did just last week submit our quarterly project report and financial report, which shows that we have accumulated right around $60,000 in in-kind since the beginning of the project. So thank you all for tracking your in-kind dollars. It's really going to help a lot, so we don't have to come begging money at the end of the project. I fully anticipate we'll meet all the match requirements with the involvement that we have from everybody. So thank you for that. We haven't heard anything back. We have also submitted an amendment request to Federal Highways to extend the agreement period, which was originally slated to end in around, I want to say June. That was supposed to end February this year because we started this, we were super aggressive. There's a lot going into this. So we have actually requested that they extend it until next July, which will still only leave us opportunity to use this plan specifically for SS4A dollars for 1 or 2 cycles. But it really could have an impact on allocation of other federal dollars, other federal programs. So it's a necessary plan that we complete, and we just want to make sure we get it right. That being said, there's also going to be an opportunity possibly in February. We're hearing the February timeframe now is when they're going to open the SS4A call for projects. We can't apply for one specifically for a large scale project, but we can apply for additional planning dollars and for demonstration projects. We're trying to get more information on what demonstration projects are. I don't know if that's roundabouts. I don't know if it's drainage studies that the safety of the transport. I don't really know what that means, but those are things we'll be looking into. So you may see some additional an additional request come forward around February, talking about possibly applying for some additional grant funds for some of these additional other initiatives while we continue working on this project by itself. That is all.
James, Ryan, thank you for the updates. Questions, comments, concerns for SS4A? Hearing none, we'll move on to item number 10, which is a discussion item regarding an update on possible MPO boundary expansion. I'm waiting. I still don't have anything solid from NextSouth. Last I heard, their financial folks were pulling together the information for the draft
UTP dollars I had asked for, and they were hoping to get a meeting with me, Stan and Greg, the two area engineers, to kind of discuss and see what impacts our planning boundary expansion may have on funding dollars. And I don't have anything from them yet, but I will reach back out to Todd, our MPO coordinator, and see if he can give me an update.
Questions, comments, concerns, Ryan, on the MPO boundary expansion? Hearing none. One of my favorites, number 11, the discussion item regarding input received through December 2023. James.
We had a couple email requests for information, one on the development February plan. They're interested in any projects that are happening along FM2484. And then a question on Monday that's not in your packet, but someone was asking about there's a bus that runs between Temple and Killeen, so I directed them to the hop because there is. That's all I have.
Very good, thank you. Questions, comments, concerns over public? Hearing none, item number 12, member comments. Comments from the members of the board.
I just want to say, Parker Heights apologizes for being late. We were in the EOC meeting next door. So.
Yes.
I know this year the National League of Cities infrastructure is going to be a big topic, especially when we go to Congress. I got appointed to the infrastructure committee. I won't just represent Killeen, I'll bring out the whole region.
All right, very, very good, very good. And congratulations on that appointment. Any other member comments? Hearing none, that concludes the business of the board today. We stand adjourned. Thank you all.